it's so wonderful to follow such a beautiful piece of music that in itself felt like a poem. I felt like I followed it the way I followed a poem. And so the poems that I'm going to read, the poems that I'm going to read, now that's not as good. The poems that I'm going to read are poems that I've written since, mostly since the pandemic started. One of the things that I'm always interested in and I write about constantly is the vulnerability and the strength of the body. And so the other poem that I'm going to begin with is the poem about or opening us up to the vulnerability of the earth itself and life itself. It is the faithful wood waiting under the cracked and peeling paint, the iron breathing its patient rust. It is the lines of the face, the scour and etching of sun and wind and river flow, the gloss and paint and wearing away, that is the beauty of the mortal earth. And so these next poems are poems that pinpoint the ways that our lives changed during the pandemic and how we tried to organize them in a way that made sense, that felt, but at the same time felt so different from the way we had been living before. There was a time I couldn't lie down, a time when I couldn't stand up, time between gaps in the story, between griefs. The story of how I played, rested, and worked, walked miles in the woods looking for mushrooms, lion's mane fungi, snake and bloodroot, shredded leaves of trees, invisible spores, visible seeds all around us. But only I scrutinized the humus, rich floor of our earth. Only I thought a message was written there for me. How time eats us, lips at the edges, spoken when the wind shudders and gusts. And what could I say about this lesson of earth, ripeness of dirt, this strength of the threads of death? Why was I sure it was meant for me alone? Why was I so sure? Haven't we all walked miles of sweet decay, saturated ground, then again, dry dust whirling into sky? How do we orient ourselves in these last days when it's painful to walk? The knees say sharply, don't bend. The flaccid muscles don't contract. Only the mind murmurs, so lonely for its fingers and toes. Only the mind circulates, remembering how its body cradled it selflessly before. Lockdown. Depression-era glass, words cocked up, spill over the dam in quarantine. Fear our human fellows, hope to thread the labyrinth of viral particulates hung, suspended, cling to surfaces. How long, how long, how long? Left to our own devices, our fingers strike, snake bites, our hands full of lattice-like molecules. Traffic streams by. Birds crazy at first light stake their claims to the overstory. Each house of bark, of leaves, web of terrible green pollen, germ cell, extravagant procreation, snore and beep of nuthatch, happy jeer of jay, flash of red, of blue, goldfinch cry their desire for potato chip, for chicory, the rust wren for tea. Little brown jobs we strain to identify. All the egg blue shells break before we cross the path. Deer stands at my shoulder, awkward, tender smile. Watches, you reborn. Know I'm safe. Bounds past. In the air we breathe, frightened and angry. There's nothing we need do. Cue of bright images. Blink, 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 blink. Cry wolf, cry whale. All the animals we care for. Foxes domesticate themselves. Same old traffic sounds. Sad coo of the train. Clacks in the distance. Eats us, breaks our bread, its leathery crust. Slip crumbs beneath dreadless masks. Desk settles old scores. Dishes left undone. So during the pandemic, my son actually discovered that he had psoriatic arthritis. Social distance. As when my son first extruded from the tissue that formed him, head reluctant to quit the muscular membrane that kept him safe, unsure of the emptiness into which he might fall. He and I are all about food and sleeping and waking, but now no protest cry when we're hungry or desire sleep so much we can taste it under our eyelids. Now we cross town on asphalt pathways to reach each other, young bucks, their small rack of antlers smothered in velvet, step from the sheltering woods to watch us pass. His beard scraped away, his chin raw. I want so badly to swab A&D ointment, the cure-all of childhood, on the reddened and blistered skin of my son. Although the chin is not plush and inviting like the silken round of the bottom, and I'm not allowed to claim his body with comforting, probing hands the way I once did when I didn't have to admit our distance. My one cell, divided and divided again and again, had become him, not me. And anyway, in the time of deadly virus, we don't hug, we don't kiss, although because of his neuroatypical sense of touch, he has never liked the light feathering of fingers on his flesh. He doesn't embrace often, like his father and his grandfather, my father, before him. And when he does, it's a quick, hard press. And this was about a trip to the dentist during the pandemic. Caregivers. Teeth throb in the closed mouth. Teeth cleaned by a professional who does this every day for a living. Hygienist, quiet woman, takes cleansing seriously, wielding her instruments, little mirror to guide her movements, and metal probes with polished, pointed ends that scrape against the hard enamel, remove the debris, and sometimes the gums, delicate flesh. My dentist praises my mouth, my home care, how I've retained my teeth all these 20 years. Together, we've loved them. We are not safe in our bodies. Now everyone says, be safe. I suck up a raspberry milkshake. This is as safe as it gets. And this is the last poem. In sickness and in health. Here I am at home, sick. Each day a new symptom. In each joint a new ache. The shiver of fever. Heat head throb behind the bony ridges of the brow. Coughing erupts from the mouth, each orifice capable of betrayal, sneezing and blowing and weeping, dripping, green gold pus and clear mucus, thickened liquid with which the nose protects its delicate membranes. When the bridge of this organ that draws air into the body squinches up, pulls in the corners of the eyes, the eyelashes crusted still, stiff with golden scum, surround the terrible, terrible itching of the glacial eyeballs that can't be scratched, and over all this suffering, a violet call of lethargy, an indifference of the body to the world outside its edges, the warm, pliable skin, worn sheets of cotton, pillows of down, the old blue blanket, its fibers pilled and frayed, bound in satin, path the thumb rides over, down a waterfall, through a humid mist that touches the skin, moist, cool. What great work the body undertakes to keep its valiant mess of flesh supple and yielding only to itself. The same frail sister we've trailed, we've been followed, we've danced with all the days of our lives.